Hey Jordan, it's Neil. I am coming to you from London. But I wanted to take a look at this lesson plan, give you some video feedback, and just remember I'm reading it for the first time. So, well, not the first time, but I'm reading it and thinking as I go. So if there are pauses, don't freak out about that. All right, so I'm looking through. I'm just going to talk out loud here. This is one of your first plan, learning experience one. Subject is reading. Theme, how my family lives in America. Fact and opinion. Okay, I like it. It's catchy. I'm going to take for granted that your state adopted Common Core standards are good to go. Okay, I'm going to look at your learning objectives. At the conclusion of the story, students will be given 15 questions about the text. Students will use their textbooks to correctly answer 11 or more questions using complete sentences with proper capitalization and punctuation. Okay, that's more of an activity than an objective. So what do you want students to be able to do? You want them, start out with the students will. And let me write this out. The students will draw inferences from the text. Answer 11 more questions. Draw inferences from the text and respond in writing with proper capitalization and punctuation, or by using proper capitalization and punctuation. That's more of like writing it that way is more of a goal, with a goal in mind. You know what I mean? The way that you have it written here, it's just like a statement of what they're going to do. It's an activity, which would go in another part of your plan. It's good. It's just you can frame your objectives are very specific and clear as to what you want them to do during the lesson, but without saying like answer 15 questions. It's more like draw inferences from the text, identify facts from the text, or demonstrate comprehension by recalling facts from the text. And facts keeps sticking in my brain, but I hope you see where I'm going with this. Okay, and then after completing the lessons, the students will be able to correctly match 6 out of 8 vocabulary words with definitions. Again, that's an activity. So get a little bit more granular than that. And by that I mean the students will be able to correctly identify and 6 out of 8 vocabulary words. That's good because that gives you a clear and measurable target. But you want to make it more of like what are the words, and use those specific vocabulary words to write that. So the lesson is about and I told you there were going to be pauses here. Reading and fact and opinion. How about, so is it like the students will be able to identify 6 out of 8 vocabulary words related to fact and opinion upon completion of the lesson, or something like that. But you just want to work on that. You got to tighten those up. Google lesson objectives, writing objectives, and that should help you. Okay, let me go down here to language skills. This is a little bit different than probably what you're used to. Students will use language skills to read the text, answer questions, and extend ideas with evidence from the text. Okay, so that's what you want them to do after the lesson, I assume. All right, and the key vocabulary. Remember, there are academic vocabulary words and academic and content vocabulary words. The academic vocabulary words are the action verbs. Action verbs like predict, identify, compare and contrast, etc. So those are the action verbs, are the easy way to do it, they come directly from your learning objectives. All right, and then the vocabulary words, which I'm reading here, such as, I put that in the wrong spot, sorry. But admire, custom, famous, mention, overnight. Okay, those would be vocabulary words for sure. And then I'm going to go down to your prior learning and prerequisite skills. Let's see. In order to be successful with this lesson, students need to be able to correctly search for answers to questions in a textbook. When given the page number, students will need to be able to respond to questions using complete sentences. Students will also need to be able to recall the story's vocabulary that was discussed at the beginning of the week. Okay, I'm just thinking. Maybe put those in bullet points, and like, because these are what you want them to do, and then in bullets instead, like break that up into bullet points to make it like easier to read. But okay, all right. Instructional and learning tasks. This is the part, right? You wrote it out like a list, and I like that. I see that you added minutes here. This is the part that you really have to read through yourself. It's hard to do whenever I don't see the lesson as somebody reading it and evaluating this, because really all that matters is that what matters is that you know what's coming next and that you can follow it. Pretend that you were to walk in as a substitute. You were given this plan. Could you follow it? Ask yourself that, and then read through, or ask somebody you know, like I don't know, a friend or something. Read this and tell me if you could follow this if you had to go teach this lesson. If the answer is yes, then you're pretty solid. If it's not sure, then you have to add, etc. But I like how also you wrote out the resources you need, the page numbers. That's good, and what you're going to ask. And I assume this is something you're going to ask, but if it's not, that's okay. You could even, one thing you could do to make it even clearer is something I used to do is bold it and write the word ask, A-S-K. So I knew it was something that I wanted to ask my students. I think that's just a little trick and strategy that could maybe help you in your delivery. And remember, the point of this section is and this happens, I mean, you lose your place, you're doing a lot of different things. You should be able to refer to this section when you're teaching in front of the kids and say, oh, that's what I was going to do next. And then, as a matter of fact, we go on with your lesson. Okay, I'm going to go through that. Okay, this one, these seem pretty long. I didn't read through this, but I would break that up as well. Make it a little bit more manageable, because those huge paragraphs are really easy to get lost in. Bullet points or a numbered list like you have here are just much easier to follow. And I would say that for all this, you could break it down way more and make it easier on yourself. And if you want to make it 13 and then put bullet points, that's fine, but just kind of break it up so it's easy to follow. All right, and then we get on here. Oh yeah, wow, you got a lot going on there. All right, an extension. Remember, forget the word if time permits. You're going to go into this. When you go into the lesson, you're looking at it like time is going to permit. There are going to be students who finish in 10 minutes, students who finish in an hour, right? Or don't finish at all. So be ready. When you walk in, this is the final document that you're going to deliver to your students. So scavenger hunt as a group. Okay, all right, that's good. Scavenger hunts are cool. Everybody loves them, right? But what you need to do is define what that means. What are you going to have them? What resources do you need to make that happen? Are they going to do a scavenger hunt in a magazine, in the library, in the classroom library? Just define that a little bit more. It doesn't have to be a whole lesson plan. Just a few bullet points or numbers describing what that means. All right, finally, assessment. And as you know, task 3 on the EdTPA is all about assessment. So we have to be clear. And the question you always have to have in the forefront of your mind is, after the lesson, how can I tell what my students know and are able to do as a result of what they learned today in this lesson? Okay, you're going to informally assess students by observing. That's teachers observe all day, every day. Okay, in a small group. Okay, also really. Okay, observation. Formally assess students by collecting and analyzing. Okay, but the scavenger hunt, if I read this right, I thought that was an extension. Or maybe I missed it and you put a scavenger hunt in the body of your, like the procedures. But if not, then you want to make sure you're clear about that. Like, where are they doing the scavenger hunt? Also, I suggest having 3 forms of assessment. So, observation is good. And then another one, taking anecdotal records, like taking notes as you're watching the students. Is another one. and also using a checklist, which I think is probably the easiest way to kind of gather a lot of data in a quick fashion. And you have those checklists made up before you actually go and teach the lesson. Again, Google checklists and you'll see what I mean. It'll become a lot clearer. And definitely the student artifacts or things they produce are absolutely forms of assessment. So one of your objectives was 6 of 8 vocabulary words. You can quickly look at their work and see if they met that objective or not. And you want to make sure, the other thing, in addition to everything else, is to make sure that your assessments match your outcomes. Are you measuring what you said you were going to measure? Are the students being measured on what you asked them to do? Okay, and then instructional materials, it looks like you have that down. All right, and you're using a guided reader. Good, okay. All right, Jordan, I think these are good. That lesson is good. Follow those suggestions I gave you, and I think it'll be even better. All right, we'll schedule a call when I get back from London, and we'll just touch base, see how you're doing, see how you're feeling, and go from there. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.